The rule of show business is if it's the first week of my album release and you are saying either my name or my album title, you're helping.
Taylor Swift's new album is not just bad as a concept, it is musically terrible.
I need to keep it real for a second, because Taylor Swift might have just dropped the most tone-deaf lyric of her entire career. And no, that's not an exaggeration. The internet is in absolute chaos right now. My whole feed looks like a digital battlefield. Swifties versus Swifties. Fans versus stans. Everyone dragging her like it's their full-time job. And honestly, it's kind of wild. The second that lyric hit, oftentimes it doesn't feel so glamorous to be me. People lost it. Because how do you say that when you're literally sitting on a billion-dollar empire, flying private jets like they're Ubers, and collecting mansions like Pokemon cards? Girl, read the room. Now don't get me wrong, artists should express themselves. Feelings are valid, emotions matter, creativity is art, yada yada. But there's a big difference between being vulnerable and full-on cosplaying struggle when your bathtub probably costs more than the average person's yearly rent. And the craziest part?
It's irritating, it's repetitive. You can't blame it on her voice or her voice type. We know that she has a very limited instrument, and her range is like maybe an octave and a half at most. But she wrote Folklore and Evermore, and those were good albums. Those were musically interesting. She wasn't relying on the same like 2 or 3 musical motifs to get her through an entire album.
It's not even just the haters saying it this time. When die-hard Swifties, the same people who defend her like it's a religion, start side-eyeing her, yeah, that's when you know it's bad. When your own fan base starts roasting you, it's over. Nobody's saying she can't have feelings, but timing is everything. Dropping a lyric about how hard your life is on a Times Square billboard during an album rollout? That's not relatable. That's PR self-sabotage. Imagine walking to work, stressing over rent, bills, groceries, and boom! There's Taylor Swift crying about how fame doesn't feel glamorous. Yeah, no wonder the internet's dragging her. And honestly, that lyric was just the tip of the iceberg, because the rollout for this whole Life of a Showgirl album has been a full-blown circus. It's chaotic, it's overexposed, and it's messy in a way that's not even fun messy.
Taylor Swift said that there are over 100 Easter eggs in the Fate of Ophelia music video, but there's one in particular that is scaring fans because of what it might represent. They're afraid it's Taylor representing that her whole career is about to change, and it's popping up everywhere, not just in this music video.
People are calling it repetitive and exhausting. And you can't even blame her voice this time. We all know her vocal range has always been limited, but she made it work on Folklore and Evermore. Those albums were solid, thoughtful, atmospheric, emotional, but this feels like a creative burnout with glitter on top. Let's rewind though, because this whole drama really kicked off with how she announced it. No red carpet, no major award show reveal, no dramatic midnight countdown. Nope. She casually dropped the announcement of her 12th album on her fiancé Travis Kelce's podcast. Like, imagine tuning in to hear about football plays and suddenly you're hit with, oh yeah, new Taylor Swift album next month. Random doesn't even begin to cover it. And here's the kicker. She made this album while on tour. She's performing back-to-back stadium shows, flying across continents, then casually recording a whole project in Sweden on her off days.
Our goal as entertainers is to be a mirror. Oftentimes an album is a really, really wild way to look at yourself, right? What you're going through in your life is going to affect whether you relate to the music that I'm putting out at any given moment. And what I often love seeing my fans say is, I used to be.
On one hand, that's impressive. The work ethic is insane. But at some point, overworking stops looking ambitious and starts looking desperate. Fans are saying the same thing. Why drop an album in the middle of the biggest tour in the world? Why oversaturate your own brand? Even the title The Life of a Showgirl raised eyebrows. She said it represents the non-stop performance lifestyle she's living. Exhausted, but stimulated. Okay, cool, but that sounds like a Vegas residency tagline, not a Taylor Swift record. The rollout felt like sensory overload. The tour, the merch drops, surprise songs, re-recordings, and now another album? It's giving too much of everything. And if you're gonna call it Life of a Showgirl, the music better match the drama. Spoiler, many think it didn't. Then she said there were over 100 Easter eggs in her new Fate of Ilea music video. Fans were intrigued until they noticed one particular symbol, something that looked like a goodbye to her current career era. Suddenly, people started whispering that maybe she was hinting at a transformation, or worse, an ending. Before anyone could process that, the promo team went nuclear. Spotify put up a Life of a Showgirl pop-up in NYC. Photo ops, merch, everything. And right there in Times Square, the billboard read that same lyric.
I think that anybody's gonna remember anything from this Showgirl album aside from a few key sentences that are like the most unhinged. Because literally all of the songs sound the same. And this is the first album that she's written completely by herself. Her first few albums, she got an assist from, I think, the producer. And then Max Martin stepped in. We all know how that went.
Oftentimes, it doesn't feel so glamorous to be me. Boom. Internet meltdown. Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, all on fire. Because how do you, as the richest pop star alive, lead your campaign with that line? People were like, Taylor, babe, you're worth $1.6 billion. You own 8 houses, you're flying private every other week. Your life is literally the definition of glamorous. Of course, fame can be lonely. We've heard that speech before. It's hard at the top. Sure. But it's 2025. People are fighting inflation, losing jobs, stressing over groceries. This wasn't the moment. And blasting that lyric across Times Square, that's not deep. That's tone-deaf performance art. Even some Swifties had to admit defeat. One wrote, "Even if the song ends up being good, this lyric is awful PR." When the fan base starts saying, "Not this one, sis," you know it's bad. And that's not all. When people actually listened to the album, the confusion grew. Suddenly, everyone noticed how Taylor's sound felt eerily familiar, like she was borrowing from Sabrina Carpenter's playbook. The cheeky lines, the gossip-style delivery, the TikTok-ready pacing, it all screamed, trying too hard. And look, Sabrina makes that style work because it's her lane. Gen Z sarcasm, short lines, effortless charm. Taylor doing it at 34 just didn't land. Some songs even felt like a Broadway audition. Overacted, overproduced, and weirdly theatrical. One fan joked,
Obviously, fans are worried that this exit and these allusions to her career mean, is she retiring? Is she exiting the music industry? But she made it very clear that she's not retiring, and that's actually an extremely offensive thing to ask her. People were wondering, well, maybe she'll release the Reputation vault tracks because fire was a big theme in Reputation. But Taylor literally said in an interview today, she's not releasing anything from Reputation anytime soon.
Is this a Taylor Swift album or a high school production of Hamilton? Savage, but accurate. Taylor's strength has always been storytelling. Poetic bridges, emotional ballads, heartbreak epics. But when she tries to chase trends, it comes off like cosplay. And people noticed. Then came the lyric that poured gasoline on everything. "I like my friends canceled." Fans immediately clocked it as a dig, a clap back to people who've criticized her for keeping company with certain loud-leaning political figures. And instead of addressing it maturely, she basically said, "Yeah, my friends are problematic, but I like them anyway." Girl, what? That's not clever. That's privilege in a sentence. You can't shrug off controversial behavior just because it doesn't affect you. The internet ripped her apart for that one. One tweet summed it up perfectly. So Taylor just admitted she doesn't care if her friends support harmful stuff as long as she vibes with them. People called it activism cosplay, pretending to be socially aware without ever taking real risks. She posts about voting but won't name candidates, drops deep lyrics but avoids meaning. it's all safe rebellion, and fans are starting to see through it. And then the conversation shifted again, this time into even messier territory. People started pointing out subtle microaggressions in her lyrics. Allegedly, some songs included lines comparing herself to her boyfriend's exes, many of whom were women of color. It came across as insecure, even tone-deaf. No one's saying she meant harm, but intent doesn't erase impact. You can't write, "I don't look like his exes, but I still win," and expect people not to notice the subtext. It's not empowerment. It's insecurity wrapped in privilege. Fans said it best. She's Taylor Swift. She's dating an NFL star worth $1 billion and still comparing herself to other women? That's high school energy. And honestly, they're right. To make it worse, the entire album leans heavily on high school nostalgia. Locker-lined hallways, prom dances, fairy tale crushes. Again. It's like she's stuck writing sequel after sequel to 15. And at 35, it's starting to feel out of touch. Nostalgia can be beautiful when layered with growth, but here, it feels recycled. Critics called the project juvenile, saying Taylor writes like a teenager stuck in detention. Harsh, but fair. Now, here's the bigger issue. Her fan base is splitting. Half the world still worships her, calling her mother. The other half? They're calling her cringe. And that divide is dangerous for an artist whose entire brand depends on being universally relatable. Taylor's still selling out shows, breaking records, topping charts, but the vibe around her has shifted. The world used to say she's untouchable. Now it's she's out of touch. Because at the end of the day, she's caught in her own cycle. Drop something, break the internet, fans defend it, critics destroy it, repeat. Maybe that's her formula. Maybe that's what keeps her relevant. But the question is, relevant to who? Because while the Swifties will never leave her, the rest of the world is starting to roll their eyes. So yeah, she's still winning, but winning at what? Because if every album rollout ends with the same controversy, the same defense, the same debates, then maybe it's not the life of a showgirl. Maybe it's the life of a circus.